Hello, Moon to Moon. It's time for another astrological teaching, and we are going to be talking about the moon through the houses. This is a really big one. Um, I know many people studying here may be brand new to astrology. So you're learning a whole lot of things at one time, and you might find this really mind-blowing and also like there may be parts of you that feel confused or that you want to get your head around it more, or like you wish that you could just understand it more clearly. There's a common frustration when folks are beginning to learn astrology, where we want to approach astrology like learning in any other field. And I just want to center you to the fact that astrology is not like other learning disciplines. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that it's very mystical. It's very magical. We're not meant to get our head around it. You will never understand your moon all at once. You will never understand your chart all at once. You will never understand any aspect of your chart all at once. We can only, this is emergence astrology perspective, we can only get close to the part of the chart that's speaking to us in the present moment. And even then, we're accessing a relationship to a partial component of a much larger whole, much bigger than anything that we can ever understand. So I actually relax when I realize, like, hey, V, you're never going to get all this. Like, that actually helps me calm down because I'm a good student, like I want to get it. But this is one of the cool things about astrology, and it can be very different feeling when you're first learning if someone's not walking you through this. So I'm telling you that if you're just learning about your moon and you're just learning about charts, I would invite you to trust that what you are called to learn about your moon in this moment, that partial something is going to appear to you. It's not going to be all of it, but some kind of understanding is unfolding. This is like a handout. This is like a thread that's being passed for you to just keep following. So the idea is not that you're trying to swallow it whole and be done. There's no test. There's nothing to get done with. You're never done. You're never done. We study astrology our whole lives. It is a devotion, actually, of partial understanding. So the invitation to your body systems is to trust that you're going to magnetize something to you to start to pull at to understand more. But so you have to be magnetic, as in open and available to that showing up for you. Just trusting it's going to show up. You're going to know that's the piece of the thread I want to keep turning towards. And then just follow that. And that's how it goes for the rest of your life. You never get done with it. So, inviting you to have fun with that, bring curiosity, bring playfulness, bring the openness to magnetize to you something to follow next. All right, here we go. All righty, checking the time. So this one is called The Moon Through the Houses. And so what we're looking at here is the houses as I have them in my workbooks. And this is a mix of regular language that you would find anywhere with some words that I put in. And I believe you have this in your Moon to Moon workbook. Here it is for you to see the basic significations of all of the houses. So the houses represent aspects of the terrestrial experience. These are the departments for humaning. So if you take all the possibilities of everything that you experience as a human living here, the idea is that there's a house for that. There's a house that we'll plug that into. And so these descriptions give you a sense for the basic significations of the houses. Understanding that astrology has many lineages, and these house significations have changed from the ancient world through the medieval world, through the Renaissance, through into modern astrology. And so it's a lifetime of study to learn about how the houses can be understood differently according to different traditions. And you will always learn more about the houses. You will never be done learning about what the houses mean, so to speak. You have all the houses in your chart, and you do all the houses. So if you don't have a placement in a house, that doesn't mean you don't do that part of your life. You do all the parts of your life that are the houses, but where you have placements, those houses may feel like more weighty to you. They may feel more significant to you. That's for you to feel into as you live them, because you're also having transits in the sky that are talking to your houses, whether you have placements in them or not. So if Pluto's moving through a house where you have no placements, well, that house is going to feel really important to you for over a decade, even though you have no placements there. So we have all the houses. This is just a common misunderstanding that I see in Instagram, where I hear folks say, well, I don't have an eighth house. Like, what? Yes, you do. So your moon is in a house. You're probably aware of this. If you pull up your chart at astro.com or wherever you want to look up a chart, you can see, oh, I have a moon in whatever house. Now, depending on the house system you use, your placement could change. I use a whole sign system. So if you're new to astrology, I'm inviting you to use the whole sign system. But a lot of astrologers use Placidus or some other house system. There's no rule that says that an astrologer has to use a certain house. I like this about astrology. But some of you may have difference depending on the house system. My invitation to you is to feel into it over the rest of your life, which placement makes more sense to you. And you may feel on certain days like one house feels more right for your moon than another, and this is not a problem. The house of your moon points to the department of human experience where you may most crave emotional safety and security, love, and validation. Like that just may be where you most crave it. This is helpful information, because then when you start noticing, I feel emotionally unsafe, and then you can go, does it have to do with the department of life where my moon is? Ah, yes. So now you know you're in a moon experience. Your moon is taking you to the places where the moon can go, which is when we can feel the waves of instability emotionally. The house of your moon indicates where you tend to be highly porous and absorbent. These are properties of the moon, as well as intuitive and psychically gifted. So those are they're the same but different. To me, when you're feeling porous and absorbent, that suggests to me that like your apertures, your openings are just open and things are flowing in. And when you're like that, you may feel like you are just highly sensitive to being battered around by the energies around you. When you shift that into skill set, I would call that you're intuitive and psychically gifted, because then you are learning the tools to help you close your apertures when you want them to be more closed, and learn how to work with energy that can come in and remove it from your space, which are things we're doing in the intuition activations. So in that realm of life, you may feel more absorbent and or intuitive. People who know you may feel that you're more nurturing when you show up to the particular types of experiences of that house. Like they may sense that like through that zone of life, you really show your care. Because another signification of the moon is like how we care and how we caretake, how we nurture. So it can mean different things in different moments depending on what's going on. Something to think about for me with the moon is like there's no point that we're aiming to get to where we stop having a moon. Like if I could just heal enough, then I won't have any needs and I'll never be rollicked by my moon. It's like, what would it be like to allow yourself to be a person of needs? The thing is, we just get more skilled at noticing where we're having a moon need, and then we meet ourselves there, you know? So the idea is not that you get so healed that you don't have moon needs anymore. It's that you just grow skill at being the one that's paying attention to these kinds of things and supporting yourself. Let's look at the houses. So we could do an hour on every house placement. And I'm going to bring it down to what I think is the big theme that I see. And I'm encouraging you to go to town learning about the moon and the different houses through different resources that you find for studying astrology. So the first house having to do with how others see you and your identity, what motivates you, what people are picking up on when they're around you, is that if you have moon in the first house, then there's probably something about you that signals this is an emotionally wise person with like a large emotional capacity. And you may have learned to take on the identity of caregiver because you are seen as that. And that's a beautiful thing. That is a wonderful thing. And that's an incredible gift to give the world. And also, what are you doing to set boundaries so that you're not caretaking constantly because you think that your emotional security comes from playing that identity all the time? Moon in the second house, where we're looking at your assets, your resources, your money. When moon is in the second house, I see a kind of just persistent working with scarcity fear in your body. We're working with the fear that you don't have enough, that like wondering, like, is there any amount of financial security that is going to help me feel safe? Because maybe it's not about getting to a place where you magically don't deal with those fluctuations in your body system anymore, but you actually just learn the practice of helping yourself when you feel unsafe, no matter what your bank account looks like. Moon in the third house, communication, daily networking, learning from the immediate environment. A key theme here, I would say, is prioritizing your personal daily devotions rather than projections about what other people think. The third house has a lot to do with the mind. And so how you're interpreting what the world may be thinking about you, and then you're thinking about that, that can be very unstable. We can't control what other people think about us, and sometimes it's very hard to control our projections about that, but we can get super solid and rooted and anchored through the daily ways that we support our own gnosis, our own knowing, our own ways of listening to ourselves to come to what feels like a home for our own truth. Fourth house having to do with your private life, your living space. This is where the home is where you feel safe. So this would be building a life that validates these internal comforts that you have, these private comforts that you want to have for yourself, so that your home
can be a foundational source of stability for everything that you may do out there. And learning to identify like what can I do from my home that feels public, but it's actually me in my own home doing my own thing. Um, Working with the kind of like, I need to be at home, I need to be safe at home, versus maybe you have goals that you want to put out in the world. So learning to how to build your life so that you feel that foundational support that's got you even when you're away from home. The fifth house has to do with creative self-expression, with children, with our hobbies, like what comes out of us. And because it's associated with fun and pleasure, this would be like parts of human experience that overculture would classify as not as productive, or like not as like a waste of time when you should probably be working. You know, you should probably blah, blah, blah. And so when your moon is here, it's just such an important part of your life that it's going to have to be you that validates your joys and your flow states as not frivolous. Moon in the sixth house having to do with your daily work, your holistic health, how you care for your body, energy capacity, and like the routines that you set up for your work. Your body is a temple, and this is the temple of your moon, you know? And so who's going to set the boundaries but you to create the the routines and um the nutritional support, the your body needs to be centered with this moon as so important to your emotional stability and safety. And the boundaries around that have to come from you. Moon in the seventh. This is one-on-one partnerships, committed one-on-one relationships. It doesn't have to be romantic, but there's a kind of commitment level to the contract. Um, the moon and seventh are it's like very intuitive with the other. Like so the other person's emotional experience you're feeling in your body. This is not with everyone necessarily, but the people that you're in relationship with. And so a big learning here is just because you can feel someone else's needs doesn't mean you have to take these on as your own. And how to have boundaries around like, I have compassion for you and I'm empowering you. You've got this. Or else you're going to spend all your days caretaking somebody else's needs and abandoning all the other things that you want to do with your life. But this and developing these skills will help you become an extremely emotionally wise partner to the people in your life without being codependent. Moon in the eighth. This is a deeply intuitive placement. Um, and also it's a moon in eighth has often taken on a lot of emotional intensity from one or both caregivers and has experienced a lot of emotional overwhelm slash trauma, honestly. And because of this, as you learn to care for yourself, as you learn to be the one who's growing skills, finding teachers, gaining the tools to move through what you've experienced and care for yourself, this brings you into the tremendous therapeutic capacity for other human beings. This is not an easy moon placement until you become a sorceress, basically. And so many very powerful, mystical and intuitive humans have this placement. And, you know, it's like, it's through moving through a lot
that they come into this, which is bottomless well of capacity to be with somebody else and their own trauma and their own confusions, their own overwhelm. So there's a lot of service to this moon as it gets as this moon gets tools. Moon in the ninth, this would be moon with faraway travels, higher education, religion, spirituality. The ninth house is a seeker, like where we seek understanding of like how the world works. Why are we here? Looking at the stars, astrology, cosmology. And so the home is in the journey here. Home is in learning, being expanded through different cosmologies. And so there's often something here then around teachers and because the moon aspect, that's like where you're the internal high priestess, needing to be the one who ultimately is guiding your own knowing. And your teachers are like lanterns along the way, but they're not the lantern. You are ultimately your own lantern, lighting the way, and home is on the journey. Moon in the 10th. This is my own personal moon. So I tracked a lot of moon and 10th humans. Hello to those of you that are here. I'll share what I heard when I was going through eclipses at my moon a few years ago. And I heard, your career is not a staging ground for love and validation. As I realized that I had a lifelong pattern of needing to be validated for what the work I was doing in the world from the outer world, and just feeling like exhausted from the strain of trying to figure out what people want so that I could get the validation. And rather learning that as long as I'm validating my own work in the world, then my moon becomes a nurturance to the world rather than a thing where I'm pulling from the world to give me to feed my moon. So that's been a huge learning for me. There's always going to be a strong pull to know yourself in a public way. But what are the energetic patterns of validation? And then, so this is really true for every house. Moon in the 11th. This is among friends, patrons, associates, organizations, groups. The 11th house is how you constellate together other humans to be friends with you, patrons, networking pals, because of your shared hopes and dreams. So this moon can appear like, I feel safe when I'm with my friends. I have to be with my friends to feel safe, kind of can be the feeling. And then the alchemy over life is learning that like the most important thing is that I'm super clear about my hopes and dreams for this world. And that I validate what my particular hopes and dreams are for this world and how I want to participate in that. And then magnetizing precisely the right frequency friendships that come in to support you in that, and not just feeling so good and not just feeling like this is what home really is. So it's really about like getting very skilled at knowing when you're in the frequency of I need people versus you're in the frequency of gushing shared hope. These are my hopes and dreams for this world. Does anyone care about this too? And how that like it's like the skill set building to be in the ladder there. Moon in 12th, like the 8th, this is um extremely porous placement. The 12th house being a part of life that's really away from the rest of humaning. It's behind the scenes. It's dream states, altered states, retreating, meditating. It's spaces away, right? So when you have moon in the 12th, it can be really, really important as a very absorbent person to take a lot of space away, a lot of solitude. That doesn't mean you're alone. You could live in a huge bustling household. The key, and you can have a huge public life with moon and 12th, but the key is honoring that you do need timeouts. Like you do need some solitude every single day. You do need to call your energy back to you, let everybody else's energy leave so that you can hear yourself and identify like what is me and what is somebody else, so that through that restoration you can feel return to your natural, like very wise, very mystical self that can then bring service to the world from the deep anchor of that like mysticism. So it's a very absorbent and porous placement. I would say that the most absorbent placements in terms of energetic hygiene needs, uh, I mean, they're all because that's what the moon is, but definitely the fourth, the seventh and eighth, and the 12th are particularly strong there. But because the moon is always absorbent and always going to be porous and always going to be speaking to intuition, like what we're picking up, we're picking it up. And things stick with the moon. Things stick with the moon. They're really, we're all psychic, we're all porous. So I hope that this helps begin to deepen if you've been following astrology a long time, or if this begins to awaken, if you're new to astrology, your understanding of the moon through the houses, and especially, of course, your own particular moon. As you finish learning about, like, as you get deeper, you might want to look at the charts of the people in your life, because it can be so helpful when you realize, like, that your child or your partner or whoever has their moon in that house. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's so helpful to have this information, so helpful to understand that to them, they're seeking this through this part of life. Where for me, I'm just very different because I'm seeking it through this thing over here. And so when I see them and I'm like, why do you need that? Why do you need that? It's like, oh, it's a mysterious need. These moon needs are mysterious. Like, why do I need that? Why is not an alchemical question? The more skillful move is not to be stuck in why to me, but just notice like what is here. So another thing you can think about as you play with this is the house where you have Cancer is also going to show some of these patterns, because the moon rules Cancer and the moon always has its eye on what Cancer is up to. So like bonus points going deeper would be like, okay, so my moon is in the 10th. This is me. I have moon in the 10th, but I have Cancer in the 4th. So for me, that whole line of Cancer and Capricorn is like very lunar, because I've got the Cancer sign being Cancerian as being moon-like. And then I got the actual moon placement. So there's like this tug of war between my 4th house and my 10th house for safety providing. So you might want to play with that as well. This is just an initiation. I hope it was joyful, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.